A wild, time-travelling clone dancing? Ben Chépo had always hated Canada with its greasy maple syrup. It was a place where he felt shocked and sick at the same time. He was a notable, lovable milk drinker with dirty hands. His friends saw him as a distinct, damp boy. Once he had even bought a pile of poo from a homeless guy. That's the sort of man he was. Ben walked over to the window and reflected on his Canadian surroundings. The sun shone like Barack Obama in a sexy bikini, and he said, while looking outside, "My God, Canada is full of baby sharks. Do, 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 do." Then he saw something in the distance, or rather, someone. It was the figure of Jenny Queoui. Jenny was a mean girl with moist lips. She had dated him 10 years ago, when he was a military for the army of gummy bears in Iran during World War I. Ben gulped. He was not prepared for Jenny. As Ben stepped outside and Jenny came closer, he could see the anger in her eye. Jenny glared with all the wrath of 69 smelly, elegant emojis. She said in hushed tones, "I hate you, and I want your beautiful booty." Ben looked back, even more angry, while touching a smelly wet book. He replied, "Jenny, I want to eat all of your cereals, and that's not a choice, it's a fact." They looked at each other with surprised feelings, like two rotten rats in a bathtub during winter. Ben then said, "My dad is dead." Jenny didn't know that Ben's dad was dead, which was kind of sad, I guess. But Jenny heard a sound. She turned back, saw a clone of Ben from the future. He was dancing behind them. She didn't mind him. She actually wanted to eat him with a knife and a strawberry cola, because she was really thirsty. Suddenly, Jenny tried to punch Ben in the face. Quickly, Ben grabbed the wet book and threw it on Jenny's head, but he missed. "That's a pretty wet book you missed." "It's throwing me off that you spelt it wrong. It's the "That's a pretty wet book, but you missed me. Kind of like you missed your math exam in high school." Jenny's sticky nose trembled and her moist lips wobbled. She looked irritable. Her emotions raw, like a happy, huge hat. The kind of hat she wear to a party, a hat party. Then she let out an agonizing groan and collapsed onto the ground. Moments later, Jenny Queoui was dead. Ben looked at her. He laughed. He cried. He danced. After a few minutes, he went back inside and made himself a nice cup of milk and fell on the ground. He got up and decided that he should send a clone of himself in the past to save her, since she had a sticky nose. Ben said to himself while thinking about his job as a toothpaste seller in Africa, "I might be a scientist, but I sell beds to homeless people. I can't send any clone to the past. The baby shark police would recognize me. I need to send a clone of me, but with something different." Ben knew exactly what he should do to stop the magnificent shark police from recognizing the clone. He would make him his clone wear a hat, because everyone knows Ben never wears a hat, since hats are for people hiding their ugly hair, and Ben never has ugly hair. It was time. He was ready to send the coolest, sexiest man on earth back in time, a clone of himself. He walked to his cloning time-travelling machine. Once he got to it, he saw that it was broken. So he did the most logical thing any human would do. He killed himself by drinking expired milk. It was so disgusting. It was truly magnificent. After drinking the full bag of expired milk, he fell on the floor. By falling on the floor, He made a time hole, and it got him back 5 hours in the past. It was a success! Our man of science and bananas succeeded his mission, but at what cost? He didn't send a clone, he sent himself. All the baby sharks would know it's him. They would tell the time cops like Jean-Claude Van Damme that he's there, and they would arrest him for being too cool, since time travelling is pretty damn cool. Now that he's back in time, he knows his mission, and no homeless people will stop him, even if they try to buy a toothbrush from him or sell him poo, because he ain't a toothbrush seller or a poo buyer. He is a time traveller. It was time for Mission 347-2837 BBCCPP, aka Save the Girl That Died. He walked like a mad lad, but for no reason he started dancing and had an irresistible desire to wear a hat. It was strange, but he couldn't compromise his goal. He was an agent on a mission, a super agent. May I even say, the ketchup to the fries, the potato to his tomato. He saw Jenny Queoui, but he was far from her. He decided to start dancing to catch her attention. It worked. She looked at him, but she didn't care. She was too thirsty to care. If only he had a glass of water, or maybe even strawberry soda. But he didn't, did he? He looked into his pocket to find a glass of water. He found one! She was saved! He took it out of his jacket. Oh no. It was a gun, not a glass of water. He fired the gun by accident and killed Jenny Queoui. That's when he realised he was the reason for her death. Since the beginning, he did it all. He was the killer. He saw himself walk in his house. He didn't know what to do. He decided to go to the body of Jenny. He had a crazy idea to save her. What if he used his Wupati, the most useful tool in the universe? It's so amazing that it's red and invisible. He took it out of his pocket, but by accident he dropped it on the floor, and by dropping it, he went inside Jenny's body. He looked at his breast, surprised. He said, "I'm a girl now. I have boobies. That's pretty neat, aha." He then ran into his house, saw himself from the past, and yelled, "I'm Jenny, and I'm not dead." His past self thought it was suspicious that Jenny would say that her name was Jenny. But she had always been weird, so who cares? It's not like it could be him from the future. At the very least, she wasn't a USB cable. Or was she? So Ben asked her, "Are you a USB cable?" Ben from the future was confused. He realised that his past self probably thought he was Jenny since he was using her body. He didn't know what to do, since all of this had nothing to do with a USB cable, or even anything remotely linked to that. Or maybe it does. Was he a USB cable this whole time? Who knows? He then looked at his hand. He was disappearing. Why would that be? Of course! He stopped himself from going back in time, which means he doesn't exist. But there are two things that he is sure of. It's that Jim Carrey is a good actor, and that he wasn't a USB cable. So he said, before disappearing, "I'm not a USB cable." Ben from the past was happy to know his enemy Jenny was not a USB cable, because that would have been kind of awkward. She was probably a USB drive. Since Jenny was okay, he decided to read a book about books, since he has a big brain. Sadly, he didn't own one, so he cried. It was truly a nice day for Ben. He went to bed. He said goodnight to his plushies. The next morning, the impossible happened. He got a call from the president of Mars. He left him a message on his BlackBerry. He listened to it. He was in shock. It was a call to fight the blueberries. Sadly, he couldn't help him. He felt bad since the president of Mars raised him when his dad died when he was studying at the Mars University to become a poo trader. Thankfully, he knew how to help him. He just had to